So explain to me, there are a couple gaps in my knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. What do you want to know?
By the way, for Joy, when I tell her stuff, there are like many things she's never heard about.
like
Right.
what?
I don't know. Just, you know, she says, wow, I didn't know about that. Anyway, I'll try
Okay.
to get to. So when you moved, well, start before when you were growing up, and this is both of you are going to contribute, okay?
Okay.
So, did your parents' mom belong to like a synagogue or anything?
No, no. My father, I think he went to shul. He probably went for Yortzeit, and maybe I don't know. Maybe he went for the Reglayim. I don't know. But no, it wasn't like he belonged to a shul. He went, but I think it was probably for the Yortzeit and things like that.
And Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, but on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I was happy if the library was open, so there's something to do because I fasted. But there was no sense of going to synagogue. My father was not a Sabbath observer. He worked until maybe the last 9 years of his life. So he did work. He worked on Saturday. My mother always, she made everything for Shabbos, and you washed the kitchen floor, and then it got covered in paper, or something like that, whatever it was. And Passover, we really didn't have seders with anybody else. My father zipped through reading it in Hebrew, and I read through in English back and forth.
But he could read Hebrew.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sure.
And was he somewhat knowledgeable about kind of certain aspects of Judaism?
I think so, but it was funny. Although he knew it, when we got married Rosh Chodesh, but he was checking with my mother's sister's husband, because Zalman was, like the very learned person. Although my father knew that Rosh Chodesh you can get married, but it's like you need somebody who's more observant to say it's okay. But no, my father knew Hebrew.
And your mother?
I don't know. I don't know how much she knew. It's like you do certain things because that's what you're supposed to do, but they can't give you a good background. They obviously had the background in Europe, but my father's oldest brother, it was a half brother because it was different mothers, same father. He was married to my mother's sister. It was like a 9-year difference. My mother was 9 years younger. And that's how I guess they got together, because of the brother and the sister. So that my aunt wasn't, they observed certain things for Shabbos, my mother did. But my father, no.
And so what about your side of the family?
Well, the only synagogue I remember was a synagogue, I think, on Bobby Street, which was my uncles used to go to a Rosh Hashanah synagogue, and which was a small synagogue, and we went there occasionally, but he preferred to go to a synagogue that was a part of a yeshiva on a couple of blocks north of that. And that synagogue was headed by a Rabbi Schmidtman, which I think was the father of the guy who was in your synagogue, right?
I don't know, because our Rabbi Schmidtman grew up in Montreal.
Oh.
Well,
but I'll
It's an
I'll
unusual
ask him.
name. It could very well be a relative. You know.
Yeah.
I'll ask him. There's
anyway, so he preferred to go there, and
and so just remind me one more time, where in Brooklyn was this approximately?
on well, the synagogue that was related. Turns out that Robbie Street was kind of a north-south synagogue, north-south street. So on this one closest to us was the one where I got bar mitzvah and went to the Talmud Torah there in the afternoon. And we didn't go there to daven. And so on the high holidays, I remember it was kind of a time where, I lived on a street with 2 aunts and people who came from the same village in Bessarabia. So I remember on Rosh Hashanah coming back from synagogue, it was like open house, and everybody went from house to house to have something to eat.
So in your street, it was more community than where you lived, Mom.
Yeah. Well, he had relatives there. I had, I think, an aunt on 6th Street. I live in Brighton, 1st Street. I had an aunt down the block, an aunt on 6th Street, and then another 2 aunts in the neighborhood.
But you had more.
We mingled more.
Yeah, they didn't have seders together. No, everybody was
So,
sort of individually.
Can you remind me what's Bessarabia? What did it used to be, or what is it?
Bessarabia is a part of Romania that is the eastern part of Romania. That's between Romania. It's an area of Romania that touches Russia.
But that's now part of the Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine is Russia, or was part of the Soviet Union.
Because where your father came from, I forgot how it's pronounced.
Chernovitz or
Right.
Yezhinets.
But that's now part of the Ukraine.
No, but I think Chernovitz and Chernobyl are kind of close to one another.
That one I'll have to look up.
You
I
have
don't
to
want to
look
get I don't want to get myself too distracted by geography.
Okay.
So for you, did your father go to the shul weekly, once a
No,
month?
No, my father worked on Saturday, and they were not observant. Not that we talked about it, but I mean that's just was normal.
No, but I think on Saturday they didn't do anything, or your mother didn't do anything.
I don't remember her.
My recollection when we went there, after Shabbos, then they started doing things.
So
I mean, that's my vague
Okay.
recollection.
So you mentioned you went to a Talmud Torah.
right.
When did that start?
I don't know. It's not. Well, that's the picture we have hanging there between the choir that my father was in, and underneath that is a picture of me in a choir with the rabbi who ran the Talmud Torah.
Did it start when you were like 10 years old, 11 years old?
I don't know. I remember walking around with a ruler, and we would learn, a sentence in Hebrew, and if you got it right, you were okay, and if you got it wrong, he'd hit you on the hands with the ruler.
Nice. And do you remember how many days a week that was?
No, but I think I did it. I also went on Sunday. I don't remember.
So fast.
He's trying to figure out how you got from where you are today to where we came from.
And vice versa.
Well, the story is that one of the pleasant coincidences, well, we never talked about it, is with your mother and I. We always were more interested in learning than we were in observance. So your mother went to Young Israel classes before we even met each other.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Which Young Israel?
The Young Israel, where they have the museum. What is it, 15th Street, 16th Street? In Manhattan. I worked at Fairchild Publications, which was at 7 East 12th Street.
Uh-huh.
So there was a Young Israel, and they had history classes or something at Young Israel. It's where there's a museum now. I forget the name of the museum.
Okay.
And sometimes I take classes there. Sometimes I took classes in Jewish history at the new school. I was interested because I knew nothing. Now, my brother was got bar mitzvahed. With me, they didn't do anything. And my sister, she went to something or other, but I got zero.
My sister went to a Abbot Harim, which was a workman's circle school. It's a kind of a considered left-wing part of where the emphasis was on Yiddish,
Uh-huh.
not Hebrew.
Well, because I think they spoke Yiddish in your house.
Yeah.
My parents, not so much.
They spoke what?
English, if you're Yiddish, if they don't want you to know what they're saying. But it wasn't as, they were both
Yeah,
spoke
both-
English better than his parents.
Well, my mother used to read the Jewish newspapers.
Yeah, I don't know what my mother did. I know when she was corresponding with a cousin's wife, she would write to her. Yeah, I guess in Yiddish or something. You know, or the woman sent her mail so my mother could read her. But I don't know.
He also used to listen to WEVD.
No. Well, I think my father, I don't know, it was a little left, but not much. I don't know. It was maybe more the PM than
Oh, yeah.
not the communists, but PM, more on the left
Kinda
side.
left-wing.
It was a newspaper.
PM stands for,
PM
Post
stands for
Meridian,
evening.
PM, AM, PM.
okay.
I forgot who was the editor there. You know,
Yeah.
famous guy.
So you were taking classes
Just because I had zero
like after
back.
college at Young Israel?
Yeah, because I had zero knowledge. I mean, I admire people who, and then when I went to high school, it didn't occur to me to take Hebrew. I mean, they suggested if you want to go to college, you take Latin and French. So I took Latin and French. Latin for 2 years, French for 3 years. And then in college, I took French for a year and a half. Latin would have been better, probably. But no, I felt, ignorant, really, very ignorant on things, on what to do. In fact, I remember I thought that when you hear about Kol Nidre, I eventually one time went to shul, and I'm waiting for they get to that famous Kol Nidre. Of course, Kol Nidre is the very beginning. I didn't know. I mean, you fast, or you don't do this, you don't do that, but no background. But I had a lot of religious relatives that lived on the Lower East Side or in Williamsburg.
I think the lucky thing for us was that we fell into this Reform synagogue in Evanston.